What's going on with YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Rogue Den. I'm your host, the one, the only, self-appointed and self-anointed Rogue King. You know it. Alright, guys. So, we are going back to analyzing YCS Montreal. If you haven't already seen this week's videos, what we've already analyzed the meta decks, which were Rollad and Elf Note, and there was also cool tunes, lots of cool tunes, but there's literally no innovations there, so there's no point in me analyzing that because you guys are already prepared for it. There's nothing more that I can add to it because it's the #1 deck in the room, and it has been for quite some time, so I'm sure you guys are already ready for that, so there's nothing more to add to that. So instead, we're just going to analyze all of the Rogue decks in one video here because there just wasn't that many this weekend. This weekend, there was literally only 5 Rogue decks in the top 32 at YCS Montreal. Now, to clarify what I mean by that, you remember last week we talked about how the current meta decks, there's 4 of them, right? We have in first place was Cool Tunes, followed very closely by Rollad, and then third was Elf Notes, and fourth was Branded, okay? We're still assuming that that is the meta right now. However, that being said, over this past weekend, not a single branded player, pure branded, managed to make it into the top 32 at YCS Montreal. Branded was seen as an engine, but it was not seen as a pure deck at all. Every last branded list was some sort of like Rollad branded, for example, or something like that. There was literally no pure branded. So we're going to wait one more week to get one more weekend of results before we reanalyze what is the meta. So for now, we're just going to assume that the meta has remained the same. But it very well might be that now there's only 3 meta decks, that being Elf Notes, Cool Tunes, and Rollad, in whichever order you want to put it in. I'm going to say Rollad is probably first, Cool Tunes second, Elf Note third, but it could be whatever you want there. It doesn't really matter in that case. Okay. So, there was 5 Rogue decks, 2 of which were Sky Strikers. We only have one of the lists, so we're going to base our analysis off of just one list. The other list we don't know, okay? And then we have one Invoked player, who was the highest placed Rogue player in the room that weekend, and he placed 24th place. That's right. Literally, 1st through 23rd was meta. That's how dominant meta was this past weekend. And I think the reason is because it's so difficult to build a deck that can face off well against both Cool Tunes and Rollad. The fact of the matter is that those 2 strategies are completely different and have completely different weaknesses and completely different strengths. And designing a deck to be able to handle both with any amount of confidence is very difficult, you know? And there's just only so many decks that can do it. In my mind, there's realistically... I say there's only like 2 decks that I can really, with confidence, say, yeah, that deck is good. 3 decks that can compete with those. 3 decks that can compete with those 2 decks very solidly. First and most obvious is Elf Notes, right? Elf Note, the reason why it topped so well and the reason why I got first place is because it has the best matchup against both of those decks, right? So arguably, Elf Note you can consider the top of the Rogue decks. But obviously, it's good enough to be considered meta, but if you want to put it into the Rogue category, it would be the #1, right? And then the other only 2 decks that have any viability against those decks would be Sky Strikers, obviously, and Invoked. And wouldn't you know it, those were basically the only decks that actually managed to make it, with the exception of one Doom Z player who made it to 32nd place, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's first start off with evaluating the 2 Sky Striker decks. As I said, we only have one list with us right now, so we're going to analyze it based off of the one list. However, it's pretty safe to say that the other list was near identical because the Sky Striker player had a very cookie-cutter deck. It was very well designed, but it's exactly a design we're already used to seeing. The main deck engine had virtually no innovation because there was no need for innovation. It's already known what to do, right? So there's no need to even discuss what the engine looked like. It's exactly what you would expect it to be. Okay. However, let's go ahead and discuss what his non-engine looked like in the main deck first. So he actually played no Molcharmies in the main deck. That was actually surprising. He's the only like one of only like 2 or 3 players that opted not to main deck mulch armies, for the exception of the Cool Teams player. Obviously, that's like completely different, right? But he opted to do no mulch armies in the main. Instead, his hand trap lineup were 2 Ghost Bell, 2 Ghost Ogre, 3 Ash, and 2 Droll. That was it for the hand traps. He also played some board breakers in there. He played 3 Radiant Typhoon Visions, along with the corresponding MST, because of course he would. But that was it for the Radiant Typhoon package. He didn't opt to play any other Radiant Typhoon cards. Then he played 2 Forbidden Crowns and a Call by the Grave, along with 3 Pot of Desires. That's it. That's actually all he played for his non-engine. Okay, and it was a 40-card list. The side deck was also very streamlined, very well thought out, but still very cookie cutter. It's exactly what you would want it to be. There was no cute gimmicks. It was exactly what you need to do. You know, it was just 2 Sphere mode, 3 evenly matched, 3 Fawalos, and a Solemn package. No Peruli at all. Actually, I think I forgot that he did Fallen of the Virtuous. Let me look that up really quick, because I think he did play Fallen of the Virtuous in the main deck. Let me go back. I think I forgot to put that in there. Let's see here. Yes, he did play 3 Fallen of the Virtuous. I forgot to add that in there. He did main deck 3 Fallen of the Virtuous. So, yes, as expected. It's exactly a cookie-cutter list. No innovations there, but you don't need the innovations, right? Like, you just play the deck as it's meant to be played. And that's what you're going to see as a common theme throughout the Rogue decks that have success, is that none of them are innovations. They're just maximum capacity to do what it's supposed to do, right? So every last one of the Rogue decks that we've seen, they're all cookie cutter, no innovations. And that's fine. That's exactly what you want. Let's look at the Invoked deck next. So the player's name is Yuzhuo Wang. I hope I pronounced that right. It's Yizhuo Wang. He placed 24th with Invoked. He was the highest placing Rogue player. His deck was exactly 40 cards, exactly what we'd expect. There's not really much room for innovation there. You can go a little bit above the 40, but once you do that, then you're going into innovation territory, and then you might not see success, right? You basically just want to play the proven deck, right? So his was just pure, right? Okay. He main decked 6 Mulch Armies, exactly what we would expect. He main decked 3 Ash and 2 Droll. That was actually it for the hand traps that he main decked. But he did also play a few board breakers. He did play 3 Super Polys and a Call by the Grave. That was actually it for his non-engine. It's a very low non-engine count, which that to me might be considered an innovation, because the other deck lists that I've seen opted to play a heavier amount of hand traps. So that's interesting. His side deck. This is where I might argue also there was a little bit of innovation, because he put his Dimension Shifter in the side deck instead of in the main deck. And as we've seen from most Invoked players, they opt to put it into main deck because they're totally fine with being shifted. But he opted for the side deck. I wonder why he did that. He also, in his side deck, had 3 Bell and 2 Ghost Ogre and 2 DD Crow, along with the remaining Holy Trinity, which is to say, so he had Cross Out and Talents. In addition to that, he also played 2 Thrust. And for those Thrust targets, he played 1 Duster and 1 Different Dimension Ground. And then he opted to put the Invoked Trap card in the side deck instead of the main deck. So overall, it's a pretty standard list with a little bit of innovation, so that was cool to see. But mostly, it's exactly what you would expect from the deck, you know? And that's just what you need. You just need the deck to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Nothing clever about it. Just the best, most optimized way to face off against Rolad and Cool Dudes. And that's exactly what he did. All right? And finally, let's look at the Doom Z player. I call it Doom Z. It should be called Doom Z. You guys should call it Doom Z as well. Arash Morandi placed 32nd with Doom Z. He is the only Doom Z player to top in a major event in the past 3 weeks. So congratulations to him. That is definitely some accomplishment here. But there's actually not much to discuss about his deck. His deck was actually completely cookie cutter. It was exactly card for card, side deck and everything, exactly what you need it to be. You know, basically every Doom Z list you see out there was his list. I could not spot any innovations at all, and I think that's exactly the reason why he was able to top, is because he chose a deck that's still a very good deck, but it does have a difficult matchup against Cool Tunes and Doom Z. I mean, Cool Tunes and Rolad. And he just played it to the best of his capacity, and he must have been a very skilled player and managed to make it to 32nd place. So congratulations to him. But there's really nothing else to discuss about the list. I'm not going to go ahead and bother with discussing the list itself, because it's exactly what you would expect. Again, congratulations to him. I know that was a huge feat to take a list that is not optimized for those two decks and just do well with it anyways. I really don't recommend playing that deck at all. I really don't, because that's such a difficult matchup against Cool Tunes and Rolad. It's good against basically every other deck out there. So if you're seeing a lot of rogue decks all day, Doom Z is a good deck to play. But if you know you expect to place basically just play against Rolad and Cool Tunes all day, which is basically what you should be expecting, then Doom Z is not the deck for you. So I imagine he was able to face off against a lot of rogue decks, which helped his stats climb up there. Maybe he did face off against a lot of meta decks. I don't know. I haven't seen his deck profile video. I've only seen the profile itself. But that's, if I was to hazard a guess, I would say he just managed to face off against a significant chunk of rogue decks, and he just did well against those rogue decks, right? Either that, or he just really knew what to do against Cool Tunes and Rolad. His deck list itself had no innovations against them, right? Like, it was literally just a regular Doom Z deck. So it's not like he played specific cards for against those matchups. He did not. It was just your standard deck. So, pretty interesting. That's it for the decks there. I believe there's one more deck to talk about. Let me see. I think I forgot about a list here. Let me go back to the list here. Ah, yes, I forgot. 31st place was a Fairy Tale pile deck. It was Fairy Tale along with Magistus and Invoked, and I believe also a small branded package. Let me go ahead and pull that up. I forgot to take notes about this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up. It did not contain any branded. He did main deck 5 Mulch Armies, 3 Ash, 2 Bell, and 2 Droll, along with 3 Super Polys and a Call by the Grave. And it was a 41 card deck instead of a 40 card deck. The deck list itself is very unique. It's definitely an innovative deck. I think this is one of those decks that you're just going to have to go and watch the deck profile to understand his mindset about it. This is definitely beyond my understanding. I will say that. I'm looking at this list now. There's not much I personally can say about it, because it's definitely his own flavor, and so you have to know him to know the theories behind it. In his side deck, he does have 1 Cosmo Queen. I'm not sure what that's about. He has 2 Santa Claus, 2 Nibiru, and 2 Ghost Ogre, along with a Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 Secret Village of the Spellcasters, because of course you would play that, 3 Pot of Sloths, 1 Triple Tactics Talents, and 2 Evenly Matches. So, yeah, obviously not a cookie cutter deck. I guess he's the only a rogue player that actually came out there with a very unique strategy, and it paid off for him. So it's not the end of the world to come out there with your own strategy. Just be sure to understand what to do against the best decks in the room. I'm looking at this list here, and he basically only has 1 invoked play. So it's mostly a Fairy Tale deck with the capacity to do 1 invoked play to get to Aeon once. He has some Super Poly targets and, a small Magistus package. It looks like it's basically just Fairy Tale with some invoked mashed in there. So it's basically just a bunch of ways to get to your Fairy Tale plays, and then 1 invoked play. He's not even main decking the original Alistair. He just has the three of the new Alistairs, and that's it. And he's not playing any of the other new invoked cards. It's just that, like only one invocation sword, and that's it. No other invocations or nothing. Just that. So pretty interesting. He's literally just doing the invoked play once, and that's it. That's all he does. He does it looks like it's fairy tales, your standard fairy tales, and then one invoked play. Pretty cool. Pretty cool list. Pretty cool. I like this. I like the way it's designed. I'm not positive how much the Prince of Endymion package was helpful to him. I imagine it was just more ways to get to his combos. But yeah, I like it. I like it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. So that's all I have for you guys today. Later on this week, we're going to have more deck profiles, because I know it's been a long while since I've shown you guys some deck profiles. So look forward to those videos here. I'm looking forward to that as well. We're going to do quite a few. There's going to be quite a few over the next week or so. In fact, I may even devote all of next week to deck profile videos. We'll see what happens. I might have to mix it up here and there, because I do want to see what this upcoming weekend looks like and how much it's changed the meta, because I do have a feeling that now we're looking at a triangle format now, where it's just going to be Roll-Ad decks, Cool Tune decks, and Elf No decks. I think it's literally just those three decks. And as far as Roll-Ad goes, it's mostly going to be just pile decks. There's going to be a couple of Azamina builds and then a couple of branded builds. But even the branded builds, I suspect that it's going to be a branded pile is going to be more successful than just regular Roll-Ad branded. And I don't think there's going to be any branded this upcoming weekend, depending on what events are and how many people show up. Like, I imagine the smaller events, there's a good chance that branded will do well at the smaller events. Like we saw most of the events this past weekend were in South America, and they were very small. So there was a lot more rogue strategies in those ones, because there was like 50 players or like 100 players and that sort of thing. Most of the deck lists we don't have. We have very few deck lists in total. I think we have only like a total between all the events, like 16 lists. And since almost all of them were very small events, I didn't even bother to bring those decks to your attention or those tournaments to your attention, because they essentially function as UDSs, and that's just not relevant enough to really analyze. You could analyze those, but I don't think it applies to bigger events. Like a UDS is cool and all, and it's difficult, but what functions at a UDS or small regionals isn't necessarily going to translate to what functions at a big regionals or YCS, right? Because a UDS and a small regionals, it's usually no more than, let's say, 6 or 7 rounds, right? Maybe even as little as 5 rounds, right? Whereas a big regionals is going to be at least 8 rounds, and then a YCS is going to be even as many as 15 rounds, right? So it's a whole different ball game there. So therefore, I didn't want to bring those decks and those tournaments to your attention, because it just doesn't really apply. It really just doesn't. But let me know if you disagree with me on that and if you want to see that. I am willing to show you guys that in the future, but I just don't think it's relevant enough to do so. But if you think it is, and if there's a big enough consensus, I might end up doing that in the future instead, or at least in addition to. So let me know what you all think. I'll see you all in the next one, guys. I love you. Peace out.